In a world that's always racing forward, sometimes we need to slow down and reconnect.
Connect genuinely, broaden your perspective, and share your passion.
Bona fide dialogues, where authenticity, creativity, and passion merge.
Welcome to Bona Fide Dialogues.
Thank you very much. It's so nice to be here today.
Thank you.
Sheldon Collins is a distinguished storyteller whose career began in Hollywood as a screenwriter and director. His films, celebrated for their compelling narratives and rich character development, have been featured on premium television and at numerous film festivals, earning critical acclaim and a host of awards. The Legend of Valentine marks Collins' debut novel, for which he also co-directed the multicast audiobook edition. Residing in California with his wife and daughter, Collins draws ongoing inspiration from the breathtaking natural landscapes. Outside of writing and directing, he enjoys immersing himself in music, podcasts, and audiobooks, and actively participates in outdoor activities like biking, hiking, surfing, and skiing. His commitment to family and friends remains a cornerstone of his life. Educated at UC Berkeley with a Bachelor of Arts in Rhetoric and holding a Master of Fine Arts in Directing from the prestigious American Film Institute, Collins brings a unique blend of narrative expertise and directorial acumen to his literary endeavors.
Most people love Valentine's Day and celebrate it all over the world. Yet it is surprising how little we actually know about Valentine himself. I know that he was a Roman priest. He was executed on February 14 for secretly performing marriages. On the eve of his death, he sent a passionate letter to his beloved woman, signed simply, "Your Valentine."
And this is such a sweet story, and I'm surprised that nobody wrote the book about it. And I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to write it? Who inspired you? It's a very difficult project to take on.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me on the show. And the first thing that people have to know is that there are a lot of different versions of the Valentine story. When I dug deep on the research here, there's multiple different. Depending on the historians you're talking to, and depending on what iteration of the story you're focusing on, it's a legend, right? So it's been passed down for almost 2,000 years now, about 1,800 years. And so, and there's even different beliefs that Valentine lived in the 3rd century or the 4th century, more commonly in the 3rd century. There's different takes on whether he was actually a priest or not, versus just a pious man. But I think what was widely held was that there was this person that married early Christians in secret, and was really that it was defied a pagan emperor. And this is kind of what the story focuses on: is this pagan versus Christian theme, and this person who surfaces, who acts heroically and brings people together in the name of love. And today, that story in its forms has been passed along for hundreds of years, and now it's celebrated in over 80 different countries in some type of form. And it's really one of the largest celebration of love that we know of in the world. And so, what you're talking about is really the legend itself. I mean, there's other legends out there that people know about, like Robin Hood legend. And even when you look at, Robin Hood movies and stories, there's been many different versions of that story too, right? So it was really fascinating researching this. And there was, a lot of different versions. And it was my job to kind of go in there as the historical fiction author and to honor history as best as I could, and as well as make it an entertaining story and something that everybody is going to enjoy reading, learn something from, and hopefully walk away with a real heartfelt message. So that was really the mission from the start. So the inspiration started almost 20 years ago when I was directing at that time period. I have been a screenwriter and director for a long time. I've directed films and TV shows and commercials, and I started as a screenwriter. And at that time period, I was back in almost 2006. I was directing some stuff, and a friend brought me his version of the Valentine story, and I thought it was an excellent idea, although very ambitious. And his version. I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, you said somebody brought you the original.
Yes. So in 2006, a screenwriter by the name of Lee Holden brought me his version of the Saint Valentine story. So that became a very, very different version than what the book is today. But it really started almost 20 years ago when another screenwriter, he wasn't a screenwriter, he was really a healer. And he's somebody who related to Valentine's healing ability. And, there's this essence of the legend that I don't want to reveal any story spoilers.
No.
But there's parts of the story that he related to, he thought were very interesting. He brought me his story. He really wasn't a screenwriter. He was a healer. He's a very well-known healer and a good friend. And so another writer and I at the time thought it would be a good idea to develop that script. So then we took that screenplay and we went through extensive development with it. And we almost got it made into a movie around 2012. And at that time, a big studio got involved, Paramount, and the Robert Evans Company got involved. And it got really serious there, and we got a big-time director. And then the director fell out. And like many projects in Hollywood, it just the script got shelved. And so we moved on. And
that's so sorry to hear that. That's terrible.
Well, I mean, that's the way the business works. I mean, I was working on multiple projects that went through, but I mean, that's just kind of part of the industry, is that a production like this is a massive undertaking, just like you saw Gladiator 2 that came out. I mean, it was $200 million movie. And so if they did something like this movie, it would be a big production.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It requires a big studio, big production company, big director, all that kind of stuff. And it's not to say that it wouldn't happen. It's just to say that we got very close with it. And this was one of the reasons that it always bugged me that I wanted to go back and really establish the marketplace as an author. And so it was really exciting going back and now taking the screenplay that I'd worked so hard on developing and writing, and then now starting to adapt it into a book and really add to the narrative, add to the historical research, and give it a lot more depth, and more, and a whole new storyline added in there. And so I think that it's been even further developed from where it is. I know it has, and it's just a really, really exciting story now. And so that's
interesting. It's interesting if in the future you will have to transform it back.
Well, no, not really. It's ready to go as a script. So if somebody came along today and said that they want to make it as a movie, there is a screenplay in place. And there would be some adaptation that would be required to take some of the newer stuff that's in the book and update the script, but it wouldn't be as difficult because the script is, there is a script in place. So
it's the new script, not the one that you drafted years ago.
Right. So like I said, there's been an evolution to the story. So basically it went from, a screenplay that we purchased that we then rewrote, I don't know, maybe 100 times, passing it back and forth with another writer and I. Got it to a certain point where it was ready to be produced. And then from there, the next step was 10 years later, I decided to turn into a book. Yeah. And so when I did that, I added a whole nother storyline to it. So it developed even further. So I think what the point is that's gotten better and better and better. You can always go back to if somebody wanted to make it into a script right now, a movie right now would be very easy because the script is there. They can update stuff from the book, and it's ready to go. And it could be made into a television show too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's available in all formats. It's ready to go as obviously as a book. But the important thing right now to focus on is establishing the reader market. And, that's where, when for the billion people that celebrate Valentine's Day, there's a book now. There's a book that basically explains the origins of Valentine's Day, where it came from, and that's fun. So that's where it is now, and I'm hopeful one day that hopefully that will develop into either a movie or a TV show too. So it's all very exciting.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good luck with this.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that it's going to happen.
Well, you never know.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was a very difficult project overall. It took so many years, and now you're finally here. You have your book published. You have audiobook coming out on the 14th, right?
Well, the audiobook is actually to come out a little bit later. The audiobook is going to come out around Mother's Day. Originally, it was planned to come out on the 14th, but I got a little sidetracked with some stuff going on recently. Which is great, because now the hardcover and paperback is out right now.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to order the book and gift it to a special loved one, they can on Valentine's Day. The ebook is releasing on Valentine's Day. And if you're listening to this podcast later on, the audiobook is going to be coming out. I haven't announced a date yet, because I'm working with sound engineers, and we'll talk about that later. But we're focusing around Mother's Day. That's kind of the goal right now.
Oh, that's great. I bought one and sent it to my daughter. She lives in Arizona. She's a student at the University of Arizona, and I'm waiting for the audiobook.
Right.
We're super excited.
It's good. The audiobook is going to be unbelievable. Yeah. So the audiobook is super exciting. As a director, it's always been my passion to not only write stuff, but also get it made as well. So, the audiobook is a multicast production. So that means that there are many narrators, many performers, basically one main narrator, and then in terms of all the primary characters and even the important secondary characters, we had 20 different actors that I directed with another co-director, Becky Parker-Geist. And Becky and I directed these actors live through Zoom all over the world in their home studios. And then all the audio tracks are then put together. And I guess something to add there is that when you do that, they're able to play off each other. So they're able to, just like being in the same room, they're able to hear the other person perform their lines, deliver the lines back, and then we direct them right there on the spot, giving them notes. And so it just went fantastic. I mean, we have an incredible group of voice actors behind this. It's an all British accent, gives it a little bit more of a European flair, which was important to me to kind of have it feel like it's grounded in Europe. And beyond that, we've gone into post-production now, and I'm working with just exceptional editors and even sound designers, and that's where it's at right now. We're adding a whole sound design track to it, so you hear not so it puts too much pressure on the narrative, but you hear all this background noise, of whether it's a river running or the noises from a forest or whatever, that really immerses you into the world. And it is coming out so great. It just sounds amazing. So we wanted to slow that process down and just make sure that it's delivered in just its best form, because we really want it to be like a movie in your ears. So it's going to be an incredible product.
I can't wait. And you work with Pro Audio Voices. It's an amazing company. They did one of my books, but it was children's book, very short, but they did a great job. So I know it's going to be amazing.
Right. They are the production company, and they don't, because of my directing background, I ended up hiring them and collaborating with them and directing my book. So, which was important to me was to see it through and not just pass it over. And it's been a fantastic experience with Pro Audio Voices.
But what was your favorite part about producing this audiobook?
Well, So I'm more the director than the producer. They're the ones producing and I'm the one directing. And as a director, my favorite part, it's really being in the moment, directing. I mean, everything leads up to that. I mean, it is a whole process. As a director. I mean, it's first I'm working with the casting directors, I'm working with the project manager. I'm going through hundreds of auditions and listening to the voice that I want to work with and the performer I want to work with, just like movie and with television and film. It's the same process, and then finally picking that talent, putting them all together, and everybody being on point when it comes time to call action. It's a lot of fun. At that point, the story is in place, the actors are ready. I'm sitting there making sure, as a director, that I'm giving them the notes that they need. And then we're just bringing the world to life. And so I think for the actors, that's the best part. For the director, that's the best part is, when you say action and you hear it, you hear the story come alive, and it's just like, wow, it's a whole nother level.
You hear your characters, right? For the very first time all together. I can't even imagine how it feels for you.
That's great. Well, yeah, and I've fortunately I've had that experience as a director. I've written feature films that I've directed before that I wrote and directed, and I've worked with other writers, and then brought stuff alive in television. So that it is a real natural high. It's really exciting to just see stuff on the page come alive. Yeah. And it also is I would say that it's another level for me of testing the story and the product. Most authors will take the time and are encouraged to do so to read their work out aloud, right? So if you talk to most authors, almost all of them, no matter how big they are, will at a certain point, part of their process, read their chapter aloud. And so, we do it naturally as writers in the kind of the editorial phase of writing a story. But to actually do it with a whole performed aloud is another way to even further test the story, right? Because then you really see the problems with the story if it's not working correctly when the performers act it out. It's the same with if I have a script and I have, I'm working a scene with a couple actors in the room, and I'm like, okay, guys, let's go back and forth, bum, bum, bum. And they start, bouncing the dialogue back and forth.
Flow, right?
And if there's something that is sticky at that point that's not working, it's very apparent. And it's the same thing with an audiobook too. With an audiobook,
you can make changes, right, with the audiobook?
Well, you yes and no. You want to make sure that it's locked up, that it honors what's in the book. But at the same time, the changes that we would make should be minor tweaks at that point. So it would be certain things like taking out the attributions of like he said, she said, stuff that's going to slow it down. We want it to be really snappy, so you just get into the dialogue. So we'll cut that kind of stuff for sure. If there is something that just jumps out, we want to try to catch it before in the testing phase, before we get into actually recording it. Just same thing with the script too. But once we lock it, then it's pretty much, we're rolling with it at that point. I think the feedback that we would get before that happens is that maybe an actor would reach out and say, hey, I'm reading this scene and, I had a question about this. Yeah, they wouldn't say something's wrong. They would just say, I have a question about this. And none of that happened because Becky and first of all, I go over it a million times with editors, but secondly, Becky and I go through the whole thing as directors to really make sure that everything that needs to be in there is in there. So, it's a great process to further just developing the story and having it come alive and having it actually even flow faster when you make the edits that you make producing an audiobook.
Yeah, Becky was on my podcast not long time ago, and she was so excited about your book.
Well, Becky is an incredible talent herself. She is a trained actor, theater actor, and she, as you know, is the CEO of Pro Audio Voices, and so She has a real ear. I come more from a visual background, coming from film and television, and I am a writer, director / actor director. I did a little acting myself, but so the combination of both of us working together, co-directing, was really an interesting experience too, because we saw so eye to eye on the project. It was the first time I ever co-directed anything. Normally I solely direct stuff, but I really was grateful for Becky's background and experience. It just made it so much better because we were, first of all, on the same page, and whatever I missed, Becky caught. Whatever Becky missed, I caught. So it was great. It was just a fabulous collaboration, which is what it should be.
Amazing. I would like to go back to the story, to your book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk about the history piece of it. I was thinking it must be so difficult, and you talk about legend, but kind of merge it with history. How did you do that?
Well, I think all historical fiction authors, that's what they get really excited about is, we're all looking for stuff that is an interesting story that happened in sometime in the past. And I think that even readers, that's what our readers want too. They want to be thrown into this, at least when I listen to historical fiction books or read them or watch a film that's based in the past. I love just being placed in that world myself, right? So we're looking for something that is relevant, it's important, it's exciting, it's entertaining, that has a lot of different attributes that pull us in as an audience member. And this had so much of that. First of all, the world, not just the Roman Empire, was the Roman Empire is exciting itself. I mean, nobody, all you have to do is watch the TV show Rome or Gladiator or whatever, and it's like, wow, that's an incredible world, right? Yeah. But then the time frame of this was really amazing. The third century, the crisis in the third century was an incredible time period where you had 26 emperors that were all assassinated or fell off the throne within a very short period of time that almost equated to another emperor taking charge almost every 2 years on average. And so it was just a tumultuous time period, which is just a perfect opportunity for a story, right? Because it's like, you look at those worlds and there's always something that's beautiful that comes out of it. And this was one of these stories that when you heard about the legend, like you said earlier, you don't have to go further than the public domain on the internet to hear about this beautiful love story that somehow happened that gave birth to this holiday that we celebrate worldwide today. So it's like, how does this beautiful love story end up existing in this tumultuous world? And bam, once you hear something like that, it's like, okay, we got the foundation now for a story. So now you got to dig deeper So now you got to dig deeper and really get into the research. And the research came so much later on this. I mean, I thought I did a lot of research when I was when I jumped in as a professional screenwriter back in 2006 to develop the story, basically the story that we bought, the story rights, and I thought we did a lot of research at that time period, but we, the other screenwriter and I at that time really kind of scratched the surface in terms of what I did with historical consultants that were advisors to me in writing the book. The book really required to go much deeper into the research, and even in the end of the book, I put a lot of the research that I did and the resources that we used. And I actually had a consultant that I hired, a historical advisor in Italy, and I hired another historical advisor who was a professor at Emory University in the U.S. So she taught Latin studies at Emory University, an expert on the third century, and this other Italian historical consultant by the name of Chiara, who was unbelievable. This young woman who is just brilliant, a comparative literature scholar. And, I got back maybe 50, 100, I had binders full of research that when I presented my first draft, they would come back with just, 100 pages of notes and stuff of different things that they would bring to my attention, or, it could be it could be a bit just on the warfare or the armor or the battles or,
Incredible.
there's so much that you really have to go through, and then you have to sift through it, right? Because not everybody wants to hear all that historical research, because at the end,
you get
you're
so
not
deep into it, and then at some point you need to realize it's enough.
Right. That's right. That's right. So, people, it's not a nonfiction, it's a fiction, and it has to be a great story. And so that's your job. I mean, one of my favorite authors is Ken Follett, and he said, and I've taken some of his master classes and stuff, and he said one time that, we really got the easy job as authors, and the historians really have the tough job. And it's true. I mean, I like this. I love this job. I love this job of being able to go in and find the story and pick and choose what I want to use to entertain the audience. And the historians love their job. They love to go back and honor history and get it right, debate which iteration of Saint Valentine is the right one. At the end of the day, I wanted to honor the historians, honor the past, but also honor the audience. The audience at the end of the day needs to feel that perfect balance between entertainment, a heartfelt story, the adventure, the passion, all of it. So that's what this has. A lot of pack in it. I mean, it has a little bit of everything. So I think, my goal in writing this is to make sure it really appeal to a mass audience, not just an American audience, but a worldwide audience, not just women, but also men. And so you'll notice that when you go through this and listen to the story or read the story, that it really goes back and forth. One second there's a romantic part, and the next chapter or scene you're into a battle or action. And so that was very, very intentionally done to really try to hold a wide audience.
Yeah, it's for everybody. That's great. And this ability to transfer your reader in time, in different place, and make them feel something special. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a special talent.
Thank you.
I can only imagine. How long did it take for you to actually write this book? I know you had a lot of work done before.
Yeah, the script just allowed me to have a nice starting point, and so writing the book, I sat down in August 2023, and I kind of didn't really get going full throttle till about March 2024.
Okay.
And so I was kind of compiling a lot of research, trying to figure out how I was going to do it, how I was going to adapt the script to the book. I was coming up with a whole nother storyline to add into the book. I was kind of getting all my ducks in a row, you would say. And then I sat down just March of last year. So almost a year. And I really went full throttle at that point. And it was really quite an intense time period, for about three months. Starting in March 1st, my goal at that point was to make sure that I released by this Friday, Valentine's Day. So it was really important to me to publish within less than a year later at that point. And so I pushed myself way too hard. I would never recommend it to anybody, but I was up writing from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. for almost 7 days.
Sounds like a good moment to say thank you to the family members.
Yeah, my wife wanted to kill me. She didn't see me for about 3 or 4 months. It was insanity. It was not healthy. I would not recommend doing it that way, but it's what I had to do to just completely immerse into that world.
When you're passionate about something, people get obsessed a little bit, and this is a good type of obsession.
Yeah.
Then you just immerse yourself into something, and you can't stop. It's all you think. It's all you breathe. I think this is where magic happens.
Yeah, it was magical at that time period, and it just didn't stop for about 3-4 months, and then I finally had my first draft, and then I took a break, and then the real work started, about a month later after I started working with my editorial team.
Yeah, I think it's good to step away sometimes after this deep dive, and then take a look with this fresh eye, right?
Yeah, that's right. You have to. Yeah, so took a little breather, then went back and started working with my developmental editor, and I had a couple developmental editors, and I had then I really dug in with the historians, and that was a real tug of war experience back and forth, because there were certain things that I had to adjust because they just didn't exist, right? So that's where the embellishing, it was a little too heavy-handed, and the historian said, well, that couldn't have happened, or this couldn't have happened. But it's a really exciting process writing a novel. It's so much work. It's so crazy, but it's also very rewarding when it's all done and put together, and it's so exciting. And I think the most rewarding thing for me now is once it's done, I look at it the same way that I look at a screenplay, is that, okay, the book's done, now we can actually get to performing it. So that's where it gets so exciting with the audiobook. So
yeah, it's exciting. I'm thinking about Rome. I think you just said that this book is not only for women, it's for women and for men, and everyone can find something for themselves. And I know that men love Roman Empire, and you just mentioned that you spent so much time working with historians. I was wondering if you learned something surprising, maybe some interesting fact about Roman Empire that you didn't know before, or most of us don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us, when you think about the Roman Empire, and at least when I think about it, the first thing that comes to mind for me is just all the ingenuity, right? It's hard to imagine that, and there obviously are other cultures like this in the world that this has happened, whether it's been in China or in Egypt, or, but the Roman Empire itself had so many, they were so far ahead of civilization in so many ways. I mean, they had so much development of just urban planning and, roads and engineering, and, even when I was researching the baths, where they would go and bathe in the hot baths in towns, that were just incredible, the way they would work the steam and the heat, and they'd have all the labor at the bottom, the slaves at that time period that would enable have these incredible baths and architectural designs where people could go and relax. And I mean, it's incredible to think that this world existed at that time period, so far back. I mean, you look at some of the history just in the US, I mean, our cowboy era, it wasn't like that, right? But the Romans, I mean, they lived such lavish lifestyles. They had incredible homes, some of them, not all of them, but I'm talking about in Rome itself and amongst the elite. They were really just incredible structures, architecture, ingenuity, but they also had things that you don't even think about today. Like, they were the ones that created fast foods. They had these little food stalls that people could come up. Yeah, that people could come up and grab just a little bit of food and then be on their way. And so
because many of them didn't have kitchens, right? So they had this very good system of fast food.
Well, they had, I mean, yes and no. They had some had kitchen. Yeah, there was definitely kitchens, but there was these stalls that were the where you could go in the city itself and get food, similar to farmers market today, where you might walk up and grab a barbecue or something like that on the streets of and that all came from Rome. And it was a fast food restaurant, and of the time. And I think that people relate in different ways. There's architects that relate to their architectural stuff. There's engineers that relate to their urban planning stuff. There's politicians that relate to the politics, and just how this, when there was a Senate versus more of a tyrannical rule with the emperors and so forth. So there was so much that happened during that civilization that echoes what we see today. And I think that's why people think about it, because we're reminded of it, even in our when we walk down our streets and we look at the architecture, it still reflects back to this history. So it's exciting, it's fun, and it's really kind of mind-blowing to see all that.
I also wanted to ask you about character development. Mm-hmm. And of course you have so much experience writing scripts and directing. I can't ask you who's your favorite character, But did you?
Well, you can.
Did you keep? I can. Okay.
Yeah, you
Keep
can.
adding new characters, or did you have a set of characters to begin with?
No, there's as the story developed, new characters would come into play. Going back to the story development and character development,
Yeah.
there were, like I said, when the story has developed over years and years, and in the beginning it was very collaborative with, like I said, with another writer whose story I optioned. He had certain characters in there, some of them that worked, a lot of them that didn't. Another writer and I, when we started working on the script, we really started over, used some characters, added different characters.
Interesting.
There was a lot of times where we would try, all different storylines and all different ways of stretching the story one way or the other, certain characters worked and didn't work. And then, so I think as we kept developing the story over so many iterations of it, we started to find characters that we fell in love with. And then as I wrote the book, there were some more characters and new storylines that I developed, completely on my own as well. And so I think it's just been the story itself, and the character development has just been something that has, the ones that are there have really stood the test of time. They're the ones that have been tested so well that we're, at the end I was like, they got to stay. These are my favorite. They got to stay. They're going in the book, and the rest of them I eliminate. And I would imagine that it's the same process if, even if you, no matter how you write a story, it's like you're always looking for those characters that really are the most three-dimensional. They're going to get the audience excited. And that's been the same process. Yeah, people can relate to, and also people might not be able to relate to and find very interesting and unique. And because of that, they're exciting too, right? And so it's a little bit of a combination of everything. But I think the characters, I'm so happy with the characters, in general. There's just every single, even when I listen to the audiobook, I'm like, oh boy, here comes this character. I'm so excited to hear them, So I get excited even after having read the book and story so many times by the characters themselves.
I wanted to ask you about Valentine's age. Then he got executed, but I don't know if it's a known fact or it's something you had to make a decision on while writing.
Well, that gets a little bit into the. I can tell you his age.
You don't have to reveal anything.
Yeah,
I'm just curious if it's a known fact or you had to make a decision on that because it's a known fact.
No, it's not a known fact. His age was not a known fact. Certain ages were known facts. So ages of like the emperors and stuff like that are known facts, and major political figures, mainly the emperors. Those ages really I had to stick to. Also battles and so forth. Valentine's age was not something that was written in rock that I had to stick to. He was in the story. We go from him being a young person to a man in his 20s. So that's his age in the story is approximately in his now right off the top of my head I can't remember. I think he's in his 20s or 30s. I can't even remember his age exactly. Yeah. But he goes from being a young man to most of the story being in his late 20s basically. So he was not somebody I had to worry about the age too much in terms of honoring the historical records, but the emperors, I did. So.
Interesting. So Valentine's Day is a special day for you, a special day for many people, but for you it seems like a special day. So how do you celebrate it? Do you have any tradition?
Valentine's Day is all about love to me, and I have my special person, my wife, and like many people out there, they have their special person too. So to me, it's all about sharing that love with somebody, you know, like most people in the world. So I don't have some unusual celebration for Valentine's Day, but I think that I am very more aware of where it comes from now, the origins it comes from, and so I suppose that that's something that you get from the book, right? And once you read it and and process the book, you'll have a better understanding of what the origins of where the day came about. But for me, the celebration is no different now than it was then, and that's what's so beautiful about it, is that this idea that we can share love in this time period in our lives with whoever it is that is meaningful to us is really the spirit of what the story is all about. It's the spirit of Valentine, and who, you know, at one point was considered Saint Valentine. So that's what it's all about to me. And so however you do that and however you choose to do that does not have to be elaborate. It has to just be more meaningful, I think, is you know, what's important.
Yeah, so it's more meaningful to you this day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I usually ask my guests, what does kindness mean to you? And I especially wanted to ask this question today because I know that you just went through a very difficult time in your life with the fires in Los Angeles. If you could share it with us. I was looking at your Instagram page and there was a post where you were talking about what happened. And then there was a note that it was such a difficult time, but then I read this review from one of the readers and it actually made my day. It put a smile on my face. It really touched my heart, and I wanted to highlight this so our listeners actually think, if you read a book and you really love it, you connect it, leave that review. You know, your words, your kind words make a difference in someone's day, in someone's life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right, Christina. I mean, it has been an incredibly challenging time period the last few weeks for my family and I. You know, like you noted, we had the California wildfires, and so people might be listening to this in the future, and you know, at some point it'll be just an incredible moment in the past. But we've been in it for the last few weeks, where we sadly lost our house, but not only our house, but our community, our whole entire city. And you know, people can relate to this, you know, in different areas of the world for sure. I mean, you're from Ukraine, and obviously there's been huge devastation there, and there's been places all over the world where just, you know, people have had to overcome incredible adversity, right? Incredible adversity, and throughout so much time too. And that, I think, is something that connects us as humans, is that our ability to overcome adversity, our ability to connect with other people, whether, you know, through love, in some cases through the divine, through faith, in some cases just through community, whether it's a neighborhood coming together. And I was able to experience all that these last few weeks, where, you know, our whole community came together after all of this, and we've cried together, we've grieved together, we've mourned together, but we've also moved on together. And that is, it was so interesting because this all coincided with the release of my story, which is all about the same thing. You know, Valentine's, the Legend of Valentine is, yes, it's about this person who marries people in these clandestine weddings, but it's really about somebody who overcomes adversity, has faith, is a leader in his community, goes from being a warrior to a healer. I mean, it really, the parallels between the actual book and the story and what I've experienced in the last few weeks just in my own personal life have been incredible. And I think in some ways I've been able to relate to my protagonist on a much deeper level than ever before. And, you know, you talk about kindness. We've experienced incredible kindness from other people where we've relocated to a different city in California, and the community here in San Luis Obispo has just been so gracious and so kind to us. And I think kindness is all about acting unselfishness and tapping into your heart, right? It's all about just seeing in others, you know, themselves. I mean, to be able to see and reach out to your neighbor and 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 love them as you love themselves, and that's what we've experienced in this last few weeks, is people just acting so gracious with my family and extending so much generosity and kindness, and it's been wonderful, and it's so wonderful to see that. And especially this time period as we near Valentine's Day, because you know it really is all about being grateful for what we have, because life is short, you know. So we might as well be kind, be kind humans, and be grateful for what we have. You know, and a lot of this has also been, you know, having the right attitude. You know, I mean, I got done with this, and I was this whole experience, and at the end, I was just grateful to be alive and my family to be alive, because you could sit there and focus on all the things that you just lost, these things, you know, but we were really lucky. You know, I mean, people say, are you crazy? How can you feel lucky? You just lost your house and everything you own. I said, well, I still got my family. I still got my friends, you know. I mourn for the people that didn't make it out. But we'll rebuild. We'll be okay. We got each other. Yeah.
No, I'm so sorry to hear all of this that you and your family had to go through.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Stay strong, and you'll have so much luck and success in your life. You know how life is. It's ups and downs.
That's right.
So the
That's
next
right.
one is coming up soon for you. Something good will happen.
That's right. That's right.
I wish so much success for your book, and I can't wait to read it and to listen to it. So
Thank you.
Stay strong, and I wish you all the best, you and your family, of course. And happy
Thank you,
Valentine's
Christina.
Day.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.